And it looks like we are now live. Hi, this is Jacob Erdy with MarketingPlayBook.co, where we teach small businesses to increase their sales and reputation online through digital marketing. And today we got a pretty good show lined up for you, one that I'm excited to talk about at least. And that's going to be Facebook targeting and audience selection. And even if you're not going to advertise on Facebook, Facebook has a plethora of information for you that you can kind of target in on and look at to see what areas you should be targeting, what demographics you should be targeting based upon people's interest. It'll tell you if somebody's interested in cookies, what is the demographics of those people who are interested in those type of cookies, or interested in baby clothes, interested in sunglasses, interested in your water pumps, or whatever it is that the product or service is that you're selling. So it makes a really, really good platform to look at just to kind of nail down your customer avatar, even if you're not going to advertise on Facebook. But one of the biggest advantages of advertising on Facebook is the ability to laser target and target those who are actually already interested in your products or services, or closely or target and focus in on the demographics who tend to be interested in your products and services. And that's kind of the goal for today. Is we're going to be going over a bit of that information. I'm going to walk you through looking through an interest-based group and looking through some demographic data just to walk you through the platform of it. And this is going to be on MarketingPlaybook.co, episode 19. That's the number 19. Again, that's going to be MarketingPlaybook.co/episode 19, and that's going to take you to the show notes page where we're going to have links. Today we're primarily going to be using the Facebook Audience Insights tool, which if you've never used, you're in for a treat, just to be able to see the type of information that's there. Before we get started, we do have all of our live hangouts over on the MarketingPlaybook.co website too as well. That's going to be under the Hangout page. This is I think it's the fourth one in a row that we've done on Facebook. So we've covered AdWords before. We've covered a little bit of Bing. We'll probably revisit Bing real soon. This is the fourth Facebook installment that we're doing. And next week we haven't quite decided on the topic, but I think I'm going to take a break from Facebook and just talk about marketing in general, and particularly the pitfalls of marketing and failures and how to overcome failure when you're marketing online, because everybody runs into that. So should be a good show topic, and that's kind of what I'm planning right now. But getting back on topic here, let's go ahead and without further ado, let's just dive right on in and start looking at Facebook. So first up, I'm going to switch screens here for you, and let me see if I can adjust this a little bit for you guys so you can see it a little bit better. So this is, and I have this linked up on the MarketingPlaybook.co website, and this is from WordStream, and WordStream put together a really good document. Similar, we did something already on AdWords, and I was going to do it on Facebook, and I was like, well, look, there's already an infographic out there on it. So fantastic. And this, I've talked about this a little bit last week too, and these are all the targeting options that you have. So you have the gender, you have relationship status, education level, the field of study, schools. So you really have a plethora of industries if you want to target by industry, household, homeowners, whether renters or not. So if you're a real estate agent, maybe you want to target renters. Maybe you want to target renters who have an income of over $50,000, who are married, who have 3+ kids. Well, on Facebook you can do that, and you can then have it just in my city. So really, you can get really, really narrow as far as a specific demographic, or targeting if you want to target all the U.S. for people who are interested in surfing. Well, then you can find the top surfing pages on Facebook and target people who like those particular pages or like particular brands around surfing or other such activities. So it can be really, really powerful. And our focus here on MarketingPlaybook.co is on the service-based industry, and so more on local-based companies that market locally. So that's where I'm going to kind of walk you through today, but I wanted to go through and just show you, everything that you can target, just because it's like a lot of information that you can target for people. And before you even start marketing, you first need to develop your customer avatar. So a customer avatar is going to be the person who is more likely to buy your product or service. Now, if you've been in business for a number of years, you probably already have your customer avatar, which is fine. But I've also found even those who've been in business 20, 30 years, they think they know who their customer is, And then we actually look at the demographic data and the targeting data on Facebook, and it kind of, they're right in many aspects, but sometimes they're leaving out a big chunk of individuals that they're like, oh, I didn't think that was appropriate for us at all, or they think, oh no, it's not going to work. Well, based upon the Facebook data and the people who like that particular type of item or product, you switch up the targeting a little bit, and lo and behold, it works fantastic for them now. So don't necessarily prejudge anything. Even if you've been in business for a long time, you might be surprised at what other types of marketing can work really well when you target a different type of demographic group. And before I even start, last week we talked about ad copy and image ads on Facebook and how important the image ads were. But before I even start with my image ads, the very first thing that I tend to do is I actually go out and I actually do the demographic data first. So I go through all the demographic information. Let me recenter this for you guys. I go through all the demographic information. And based upon that, I then create my custom avatar, and then I create my ad copy and the image based on that customer avatar. So based upon who I'm then targeting is what I ultimately end up selecting. So what I have here is I have two different cities in Minnesota. So one is going to be White Bear Lake, which has isn't all that big of a city. So we have 20,000 here. And then we have St. Paul, which is 200,000 to 250,000 a monthly active people. So we're going to kind of go through these two different demographics and kind of see, we'll pretend that we're a local business and we're just kind of looking through the two cities. We service both cities, and we're looking to say, well, maybe we want to start in a smaller city before we expand out into a bigger city, because we service both White Bear Lake, which is right just north of St. Paul. So it's kind of like a suburb, right? And even though we service both cities, let's maybe we want to target the smaller city first, just to try to hone in and get as much of that market share as we can, and then dive into St. Paul once we get something working for us. So, but at any rate, we'll go through the different demographics here. So we're going to see in White Bear Lake, we have 56% women, 44% men. And then the biggest group here looks to be 20% age 35 to 44. So 20% are women between those ages. And then males is 26, which is higher. And just going through here, we can kind of take a look at the demographics and who might be a good target for us for whatever it is that we're wanting to promote. So we go over here, we're going to see that demographics are slightly different. We got 28% females here, but it's 52 to 48 as opposed to 56 to 44. So if our product was already female based, we can already just target just females anyways. But in White Bear Lake, there's a higher percentage of females on there, at least who use Facebook, and if we're doing Facebook marketing, that's going to tell us a lot. So scrolling down, we're going to see some of the lifestyles in here, and if you hover over the eye, it'll tell you what they are, and they make them all sound like really good. So it's kind of funny if you read through these, but these are the kind of their own avatars that Facebook has created, and it's going to tell you what percentage of your audience is in that compared to the rest of Facebook that's out there. If we go over here to relationship status, we're going to see that the vast majority of people here are married, and at 56% in White Bear Lake, and then 64% have a college education. That's self-reported. So going here, we get some of the same demographics in here, just the audiences that you can go over. But here we're going to see that, okay, we have 40% are married and 37% are single. So that's a big difference compared to White Bear Lake. And now we're back over to St. Paul. So that is a really big difference. And this is saying that it's minus 18%. So minus 18% for compared to Facebook as a whole. All right, and over here, this is going to be plus 17%. So that's a pretty big difference. And the education level seems to be the same, really, at the 64%, at least for the big one. We have job titles, and job titles can be pretty important too, and I'll go more into that in the next example that we go into. So I'm not going to really spend too much time on that. So we'll go ahead and we'll go over to page likes and see if there's anything in page likes that we have. White Bear Lake probably doesn't have any page likes. And it does not, because the audience is too small. So as you start layering in stuff, you're going to find that you might not have anything because the audience is just too small for you. So St. Paul is big enough, and we're going to see some of the topics that people are generally interested in. Keep in mind, I haven't done anything over here yet, so I haven't selected. Well, I did select the location, but I have no gender, I have no interest, I have no connections, no pages, and nothing under the advanced, which is language, work, financial, parents, if you're a parent, not a parent, if you have kids, don't have kids, things along those lines. So I haven't really done anything there yet. I'm just trying to gauge overall what my market might look like. So we're going over to location. So location should be the same for both of them because I'm targeting here just White Bear Lake, and the other one's St. Paul. So activities. So activities is going to show you the amount of likes and stuff that people have done, kind of their activity on Facebook that they've taken themselves. So ads clicked, promotions redeemed, which could be nice if you're running promos, post shares, post likes, comments, and pages liked. So for a lot of businesses, the promotions redeemed is what you're primarily going to be going off of. So this is White Bear Lake. If we look over into St. Paul, that number's still about the same. This can be really, really interesting here. And this is going to be the device users. So these are the devices that you have. And you can target by devices too here within Facebook, which is nice. But overall, what I tend to look at is going to be, let me see if I can't move this up just a little bit for you guys so you can kind of see what I'm talking about here for device users. We have desktop, and so so 10% of these users are desktop only, which means they only use desktop. They do not use desktop and mobile, just desktop. And then 41% just use mobile, and then we have 49% which are desktop and mobile, which correlates to most people out there. So this is St. Paul, and then if we go over to White Bear Lake, we're going to see that the demographics there for White Bear Lake are fairly similar. We have 51% compared to 49% for desktop and mobile, and then about the same here. So that's just something to take note of in case you're writing your ad or you're sending people to your landing page. Well, know that 40% are just on their mobile phone. So if your landing page isn't mobile responsive and doesn't look good on a mobile phone, then you probably shouldn't be targeting people via mobile ads. So it'd just be desktop ads, so it wouldn't be the mobile news feed. And that's important to note, or maybe even vice versa. That should tell you, oh, you really need to have your landing page be mobile responsive. So that's something to take out of it. And then household can be pretty interesting information overall. So if we look at household here, so I'm in St. Paul, we're going to see it has a 74% home ownership. And compare that to White Bear Lake. White Bear Lake is going to be at an 82%. So if I'm doing, if I believe my services are more related to home ownership, which my example will be, then clearly White Bear Lake would probably be the better area to target. So that's important information to know. And wait a second here. Did I take off? Oh, I'm on the wrong one. So we're at 74% in St. Paul, 87% in White Bear Lake. And then we have the household income here. We're going to see that 28% are between 50 and 75 for White Bear Lake. Something that looks really, really interesting here is it looks like 14% make 50,000 and under, and that's just 14%. If we go to St. Paul, you're going to see that it's a lot higher there. So you're going to have a lot more individuals who do not make as much, which is interesting. And that can help you even with your offline marketing, for instance. So, if you're going to blanket St. Paul, what would you rather do? Would you rather blanket a city if your services are plumbing related? Would you rather blanket White Bear Lake that has 87% home ownership, or would you rather blanket St. Paul, right? So going through here, we'll go ahead and we have the household size, which can show you, how many people are in the household. And so for St. Paul, we have 29% are single households, just one person. 22% have two people, 18% have three people. If we compare that to White Bear Lake, you're going to see that data is a bit different. So there's more people who have at least two people in there, which kind of does correlate when you think about, okay, they have a far higher percentage of people who are married. So if you're targeting your avatar and your product or services more based towards married individuals, and then what city might be better for you to target overall starting off, or just give you an interest of what data is available out there for you to target and look at off of. So we're going to see, and I'm still in White Bear Lake, we're going to see down here that we have a 90% of the people use credit cards. So they use credit cards regularly. That's plus 64% higher than the average Facebook user as a whole. So that could be pretty significant. If I am targeting e-commerce, I might say, well, you know what? I want to target individuals who use their credit card because I have an e-commerce store which is online, right? So because of that, you might want to target those type of individuals who have that higher percentage. So you might actually make that targeting goal for you and just target the cities that have a higher percentage of individuals who use cards. If we compare that to St. Paul's data, it's 52%. So that's way, way lower. And we have 48% who primarily use cash. So depending upon your business, that may or may not be good for you. And those are all just segments and things to consider as you're marketing as a whole. And then it's important to note that household and purchase information, the tabs up here, are only going to be available in the United States. So outside of the United States, you're not going to be able to get this information currently. However, I believe over time this will change as they're able to get more data, and there's just a lot of privacy laws in a lot of other countries that make it hard to do a lot of things. So we can go ahead and go over to the purchase tab, and we can look at the retail spending, their online purchases, what are their averages there, and the purchasing behavior for those individuals. So we see that in St. Paul, they have a 27%, plus 27% higher for home and garden versus the rest of the Facebook user base that's out there. So, and that's going to make up 21% of our selected audience. That's kind of interesting thing to know. So, if you're in that particular business, then you might say, well, hey, looks like people in St. Paul, and it might be Minnesota as a whole, are slightly higher than the average Facebook user. So that could be interesting for you. Same with if you're into marketing at all for car dealerships. They got some great information in there too as well. So if we go to White Bear Lake, we're going to look at the same data under purchase information. And we're going to see that, oh, look, plus 59% more likely. And that's going to be 27% of our audience, but they're plus 59% more likely to be into the specific category, home and garden. And with this information, so you might be thinking, okay, well, what does this information really tell me? And it tells you several things. One is it lets you kind of build a demographic of who you might be able to target for your particular product or services. And we haven't layered in any interest yet. Which we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and layer in some interest and kind of see from there. But we're able to get the demographic data for the cities that we want to target. So we can kind of pick and choose, okay, well, what size is the audience in this city? What size is in that city? And see what type of targeting information might be more relevant to us, and who's going to ultimately be that larger targeting group. So if I was an e-commerce company and I can target people all throughout the United States, then I'm going to have a really, really big audience. Therefore, I can go ahead and layer in like interest-based groups and see, okay, if this particular interest-based group has a high female percentage, well, then in general, I'm going to be targeting females because females tend to be more interested in this particular product or service. But when it comes to local levels, as you layer in more and more stuff, your audience is going to get really, really, really small. And so it can be really hard for a lot of people who advertise on Facebook when they try to go after just interests, or when they, when they try to go after interests plus layering in all the demographic data. You're basically you're going to find that, oh, I'm only targeting 100 people. How's that even possible? But and, those 100 people might be really, really laser targeted, which is fantastic, and that might work well for you. But overall, you're probably not going to get a whole lot of sales. And so there's a trade-off, and you might have to give up a little bit of that laser targeting to actually get that bigger audience group. So that just might be finding, okay, who's going to be interested in my product or service, and then just targeting the main demographics who fit that target in that service. Which is going to lead us to our next page here, and that's what we're kind of doing right here. So this is throughout all of the United States. So I'm not using any specific geo-targeting besides the United States. I'm not going to go down to White Bear Lake or St. Paul just because of the interest-based groups that I'm layering in here. You don't necessarily want to do that. You want to take all of that country to be able to determine what the kind of demographics are. That way you have a really good sample size. So I'm going to go over to the demographics tab here, and the only thing that I did here is going to be I put in interests. So as you type in here, you can select your own interests as you go through things, but I'm going to pretend that we're going to use the same example we used the week before, and that's going to be for a kitchen and bathroom remodeling company. So I own a remodeling company, let's say, and I want to target people who are into remodeling. So who is that? And let's say I'm kind of new in the business. I've been doing it for a few years as an owner. I have 30 plus years experience. I do kind of already know that, women tend to be the main ones, but let's leave our preconceived notions at the door and let's kind of look at the data. So I put in bathroom remodeling, remodelaholic, remodeling my home, and you can go through and you can just type in remodeling here in the interest tab, and what's going to happen is you're going to see a wide sleuth of information that's going to come out for you. We're just going to drop this down just a little bit for you so you can see a little bit more what we're doing. So we're going to see that based upon these interest-based groups that 92% are women. And that's like a really big number right there. So that kind of shows that, yes, we probably, if I'm just targeting, let's say in White Bear Lake, which is the smaller city, then I probably can't target these interest-based groups because there's not going to be any audience. But what I can do is say, okay, well, 92% are women. That's really good to know. And look at the age groups. Well, the vast majority seem to be between these two age groups. So between 35 and 54 make up 54% of my market demographic. So right now I can kind of say, well, I probably am going to want to target women, is going to be in my customer avatar. I'm going to want to target women between ages 35 and 54, so I have the biggest audience that there is. And let's go ahead and scroll down. You can read through kind of the customer profiles and see if that applies to you. I'm going to see right here that those who are again, this is just people who are interested in this. I haven't done any gender targeting yet or any of that layering. This is just remodeling in general. I'm going to see that 74% of them are married. So that's a pretty big deal, that 74% of that audience are married. So I'm going to capture the biggest audience possible. So I'm going to go ahead and add that into my list. I'm going to say, okay, so I'm going to target women between the ages of 35 and 54 who are married and who have, it shows here a college is 64%. You can choose to target this or not. It's self-reported. This is just some college. It's not necessarily all college. I found education level to be really, really poor targeting method for most small businesses and most local businesses when you're marketing. It just, you can try it and see, but it ultimately, believe me, those who didn't go to college are just as smart as people who did go to college. I'll tell you that right now. So we all have our own things. And looking at the job titles, this seems pretty interesting. So people who are nurses make up 7% of this audience, and they're 92% more likely to be in this group. So they have a 92% chance. 92% higher chance of being in this group than the average Facebook user, and that's pretty interesting. So nurses could actually be a targeting group that we want. Now, of our audience, they only make up 7%. So, but healthcare and medical make up 23%, and business and financial operations make up 15%. And then administrative make up a pretty good amount. So these are all other, because we can target by job titles. These are all different avatars that we could kind of build our ad copy around. So I can do the women between the age group we mentioned before who are married and who are nurses, and write ad copy specifically for nurses, and write ad copy who have an image of a nurse there, enjoying her new bathroom remodeling home or whatnot. Healthcare and medical, business and financial operations. So you can really tailor your ads and your ad copy when you start layering in a few of these things that will still give you that big enough audience. Now, job title might not be appropriate for your targeting methods. You don't know until you test and really find out. So we're going to go into page likes, and so when it comes to specific pages here, you're going to see that you may or may not be able to target these particular pages here. So we have Sawdust Girl. You might be able to target that page. So as you're doing it and typing it in, you can type it in under the interest, and it's possible that if it shows up, then you're going to be able to target that specific group of individuals. So Sawdust Girl, if we actually look at what this page is, it looks to be most likely it looks like a do-it-yourself remodeling. So if I was a remodeling, I did kitchen remodeling, but I also did sold supplies online for kitchen remodeling, then this person right here is probably somebody I want to contact to see if she wants to promote a product or two for me. And then also it looks like she has a YouTube channel. Fantastic. I'll probably market on her YouTube channel too as well. And I can probably might be able to target this group because it's big. It might be big enough with 42,000 people who like it. It might be a big enough page, and so I can promote tools to women who are fans of this person, right? That's pretty great, when you think about it, if that group's big enough. I don't know if it is or isn't without doing more data on it, but you're going to be able to see here. So these are the pages again right here. So Remodelholic, Sawdust to Stitches. And you're going to see that these are people who are remodelholics are 77.2%, 77 times more likely to like this page, Remodelholic, over the average Facebook user. And of course, because it's remodeling, right? So that's extremely high though to see that this particular group. So if I did nothing else, if I didn't do anything but target this one specific group, I'm going to hit that 77% times more likely than other Facebook groups. Just targeting this one specific group, which is probably already going to have the females, the high female percentage in there for me, and everything else. However, in my select city, because if I'm doing local marketing in my select city, it might not be high enough for me. So if it's not high enough for me, I'm not going to be able to do anything about it. Because you might have 10 people in your city who like that specific page, but we can use that page to kind of understand our demographics and demographic data. So locations, if we jump, we'll jump over to locations just because we're looking at it at a national level. So I can see based upon this that people in Idaho Falls, for whatever reason, I'd probably want to look at the population size of these particular cities that are listed here. But people in Idaho Falls are 500% more likely to be in this group compared to other Facebook users, and that's pretty big. So again, if I was doing just tools, kitchen remodeling, but I also sold tools for kitchen remodeling and do-it-yourself, then I might want to target this specific city because people in the city are 500 times more likely to be into it. So maybe if I'm Lowe's or Home Depot, I want to take a look at these particular types of cities and say, hey, are these good people to target because they're higher. Now, the downside there is you're going to have very, very limited very, very limited in populations when you start doing that type of targeting. But you might find that it could be very, very beneficial depending upon what types of products or services you're advertising, if you're doing e-commerce or whatnot. So looking at the frequency of activities, we're going to see that over the lifetime, the average person here has liked quite a bit more pages. We're going to see promotions redeemed just at 1. This is going to be low across the board in every niche currently. I expect this to rise over time. And the reason why it's low right now is because this is the promotions. So it's low right now because a lot of people aren't doing the promoted promotions yet. So as more and more people and businesses start doing that, I think that'll slowly rise. And we're going to see, the percentage of the number of ads clicked and things along those lines. And this is pretty interesting here. So looking at this, only 3% are desktop only. So this tells you that your audience, especially in this specific niche for kitchen remodeling, are just not on their desktop, right? You got 60% are on their desktop and phone, and then 37% are just on their phone. This tells you that you're going to you can't just do desktop news ads. You have to do mobile. If you want volume, you're going to have to do mobile and desktop. So to really get in there, and you're going to have to make sure that your page is mobile responsive. And you can look over this data based upon just your city, remove all the information, and go under the not household, sorry, activity, and kind of see just for your particular city what demographics that is. Jumping back here, we're going to go ahead and head over into household, which again is only available inside the United States, just like the purchase information. So we're going to see for household that 82% of the people interested in remodeling their home are homeowners. Well, you kind of almost knew that, right? I mean, if you would think, right? And so again, this is coming in, if you leave your preconceived notions at the door and pretend you don't know that, being in it, it makes perfectly logical sense that those who are homeowners are more likely to be into remodeling because it's their home, right? They're not renters. So, compare that 82% to our White Bear Lake household audience group, which is 87%. So, 87% of all people in White Bear Lake are household owners. Well, you're probably in good hands targeting White Bear Lake. So, especially just females in White Bear Lake. So, we see that they're 11% more likely to compare to the average Facebook user to be making $50,000 to $75,000 a year. So you can kind of compare that to your city data too, as well. And then we have the household sizes here. So we have 23% are going to be 2 people, 22% 1 person, 22% 3 people. Looking at the St. Paul data, we're going to see that this doesn't necessarily match that type of demographic per se. It's close. But if we go to the household size, we have 20% single, 25% R2, and that's a lot closer, right? So that's a lot closer of a city demographic as a whole to people who tend to be interested in this particular topic. So, based upon this information, I probably definitely want to start off in White Bear Lake. It also has the advantage of being a smaller city, and it's not surprising. A lot of times suburbs tend to be more affluent than inner cities. So rather than a bigger city, the bigger the city, necessarily you'll have a wider spectrum of household income and demographics going. So spending methods here, we're going to see that 66% primarily use a credit card, which is 25% higher than the average Facebook user. Let's go ahead and if we look at St. Paul again, we're going to see that information is, it's under household, is 52%, which is -2. So it's not too far off, but it's a pretty big jump, right? So 66%. And under White Bear Lake, we're going to have 90%. So we're definitely covered there under White Bear Lake too as well. So Next, let's go to purchase information. And so this is just going to be purchasing information. Do they make online purchases or not? What is the percentage there? The people who make online purchases, as well as their purchasing behavior, where they actually spend that money, and then in market for a vehicle. So here, based upon all this information, the audience that I'm going to select being a local, let's say I'm going to target White Bear Lake, and I'll break out into St. Paul too down the road here once I nail down the ad copy and get everything going. But my customer avatar now looks like it's going to be female. They're going to be a homeowner. They're going to be married. They're not desktop only, so I got to make sure I'm mobile friendly. And they're going to have, I think the age group was 34 to 45 or 54, 34 to 54, right around there. So other attributes that we kind of have set up that we've identified too here, it looks like, is going to be college experience. 64% I believe were college experience. And then job titles. There were a few interesting job titles there, and one was nurses, legal, healthcare, and medical. And so I can kind of even tailor in some audience groups towards that. So if I'm targeting in White Bear Lake, I don't necessarily want to target these specific interests. Now, I could try just targeting those interests and see if maybe layer in just gender, females, just because it was so high. It was at 92%, and layer that in and target that group. But if it's too small, then remove the interest and just target females. Just target the females who match who are homeowners, who are married, and that way you have your best chance at really reaching your target audience through that type of method. And then you can develop your content strategy around that avatar that you created. You can develop your images and your ad copy around that avatar that you created. So by doing and combining all that stuff together, you're really setting yourself up for a better chance of success. And it's far better than just going to Facebook and just willy-nilly building up audiences. And the vast majority of the time, when I've looked over a lot of people's accounts, if I ask them how they came about this data, well, I've been in business for 20 years. I know who my audience is. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean that you've identified who the biggest audience is in that area. And it's important to really go through the data and look at what options you have, look at the cities around you. And it's kind of fun, it's kind of interesting, especially if you love statistics at all, which I know you do, right? But it's a great way of going. So I'm going to go ahead and end it here. If you have any questions, hopefully, I didn't mention this. I usually do at the start of the podcast, but you can tweet any live questions that you have. I'll give anybody a second to go ahead and tweet it if they want. If they want to hit any, send us in any questions. That's going to be MKTG Playbook. So at MKTG Playbook on Twitter. So I'm up right now. I have it in case you have any messages you want to send in live here. You can. I'll give you guys another 30 seconds to send something in if you have something, or just tweet real quick. Hold up if you want me to hold up if you have something coming in. I do have a thank you. Hey, I appreciate that. Yep. So if you have anything or any questions, feel free and ask. So it's going to be the show notes page. You can ask on the show notes page. It's going to be MarketingPlayBook.co /episode 19. And that's 19. So I'm going to end it here for today. I hope it helps. I hope this gives you some great insight on Facebook and how to use it, and how to use it to research your audience and kind of develop your audience in your targeting selection, which then helps you develop the perfect ad and have the perfect ad copy like we covered the week before. So definitely look at the other Hangouts that we've done on Facebook so far. This is the fourth one. We've covered tracking. We've covered multiple things around Facebook. So it should be a really big help for you, even if you have been using Facebook for a while. The platform constantly changes, so it's always good just to refresh on stuff. So that's going to be it for today. I hope it helps, and take care. As soon as I hit the stop button, that'll be it.